And welcome, y'all. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Married Divorced Dads podcast. I am your host, Matt Walker, aka King Midas, and today I have three wonderful guests with me who are going to help dissect fatherhood, identity, how do you lose yourself once you have kids, how you change, so on and so forth. So I appreciate all three of you guys being here with us today. Um, as a reminder, with this podcast, we want you to be open, we want you to be honest, and we want you to really tell it like it is. And so with that being said, I'm going to introduce each of the men, starting with the top left. We have Brother Clarence Garden, who is our resident pilot, who is also a father. He's also a father, a husband, been married for about 9 years or so, almost 10 years. And he has a son and a daughter, and he's going to talk and give his perspective on that. Brother Keon Harley, also been married, also a husband, been married about 11 years now, also a son and a daughter. And he is also going to share those perspectives, especially as an entrepreneur, what it's like being a dad in that arena and doing business with his wife, who is also from America, but got a little international flavor on there as well. So we're going to talk about that dynamic. And then Brother Nafis Williams, who has been in the barber industry for like 25 or so years now.
Yes.
Yeah, 25 years. Straight out of Philadelphia, who is the father of 3 sons. That's a whole other charge for it right there. So we can't wait to hear what you have to say, because there's going to be just so much involved, and your kids are a little older too. So I think that's going to bring some great perspective with that. As I said and mentioned to you guys offline, please feel free to be honest, be open, share all of your experiences that you're willing to do so. And if there's anything else that I don't ask that you want to bring up, please feel free to do so. And so with that being said, we're going to jump right into the conversation. Y'all can let me know. What was it like when you found out you were going to be a dad the first time around? What was that experience like? Okay, and the reason that I'm asking, just to give you some context, I was having a conversation. You're going to hear me say I was having a conversation a lot because I'm on social audio, so I talk to people a lot, almost every day.
Where we have these conversations at?
We'll talk about that another time. So anyway, I talk to people a lot every day, and so that's where a lot of these topics have come from. And when I was talking about how I found out that I was having kids and I was sharing what my reaction was, it was interesting because there were women who were surprised because they had never heard a father speak on what that experience actually looked like. And so I think it's more important than, I even realized. So let me know, fellas, what was that like for you? We can start with Clarence if you want to jump in, or Nafis, you want to go ahead? It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. So I remember when I got the call. I was actually in the car. Um, it was 2002,
Mhm.
2001 actually. I was in the car, and my son mom hit me and was like, I'm pregnant. I'm having a baby. I was like, all right, cool, right? Like for me, I've always been, you know. You get news, you get situations, you just deal with. I wasn't one of those like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, cool. All right, what's up? What we gonna do? You good? All right, just tell me what I need to do. I was 21 at the time.
Okay.
I didn't, I didn't know what a father, uh, uh, my, man, my idea of what a father looked like is totally different than what I think some of you guys might have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
So we can get into that later, but yeah,
Yeah.
um that's what it was when I got the call.
Okay. So you got the call and you were just ready to hit the ground running,
I
like,
was ready
okay,
to go.
whatever it's gonna
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Clarence, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, my initial experience or my initial reaction when I first found out I was a father, it was my mine was kind of like the typical commercial, the pregnancy test, the pregnancy test commercial.
Oh, it was one of those.
Like, yeah, yeah, like my wife came out of the bathroom and she showed me the test and it was positive, and I was like, well, whoop-de-doo. Um, and my thought was similar to Nafis. Like, is what life is definitely going to change. Just make sure. I just want to make sure that my wife has everything she needs, and that I am just the best support, and that I can be the best husband that I can be for this time. As always, I strive to do that. But it was just, I went into care mode, protector mode, overseer mode, just making sure that she was taken care of, that this seed of mine is about to come into the world, and just, get my mind wrapped around it and ready for it. And I was, above all that, I was excited, ready for it.
Right.
Well, I thought I was ready for it, should I say.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
did y'all plan it?
Yes, ours was, we were playing, we were very methodical with how we went about it. Wanted to make sure
Okay.
that we were in a good place to what we felt was a good place to start.
Right. Right. Okay.
We wanted to enjoy a few seasons with just us two before
Oh.
we took that next step of starting
Okay.
a family. So yeah, ours was pretty, I guess you could say, planned and methodical.
Okay. Good. What about you, Kia?
Very similar to Clarence, actually. It was planned. We were nearly 2 years into our marriage.
Mm.
When I found out, I was extremely excited, and I wouldn't say nervous. I mean, you always pray that you just have a healthy child, but very excited. It was like a rush of responsibility because I'm really big on legacy and
Mm.
keeping and preserving and growing generational wealth and things like that. So
Mm.
I think that there was like I said, a huge sense of responsibility, and just pride, because
Mm.
we knew so many people and still know so many people that have had difficulty having children. And, it was planned, and, it happened right away.
Mm.
So, that was cool. But it was a good timing. I mean, we were very well into our careers, our businesses were doing well. So I felt very prepared and ready for that step. And yeah, it was life changing, that moment. I kind of like Clarence too, quintessential kind of commercial,
Mm.
where you take the test and you just have that excitement, and then you just kind of sit on the bed like, man, like this is real. This is really
It's
about to
about to go down.
happen. Let
Yeah.
me get prepared for this. So, also similar to Clarence, I definitely felt a huge sense of responsibility for caring for my wife, as well, to make sure that she was in a good space, both mentally, physically, everything. And myself, because when you have a child or you find out you're about to have a child, at least in my case, there was a sense of, I need to be around for this kid. So,
Mm.
let me start trying to work out more and, do all those things. So, but
Okay.
yeah,
That's good.
very exciting.
So it ignited something in you to make you want to start like maybe taking
Mhm.
better care of yourself. And like you said, you already
Yeah,
have care politic for your woman, but it really
yeah,
it put that pressure on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And also for their future,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, well, I'll just stop there and I'll let you continue your question. I
Okay.
don't want to dive too much into it, but I'll just say this. I started preparing for their future and their children's future pretty much immediately.
Okay. That's good news. That's good to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah. Clarence, were you going to say something? I wasn't sure. If not,
Oh no, I was. Oh well, just kind of to
yeah, go ahead.
piggyback off of what he said about taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's something else about it that ignited me. I already took pretty decent care of myself, but that just like gave me another step.
That's right.
I
You the
want.
brother that used to be riding like 28 miles. This brother, we used to work out in the morning at the gym. Then he was like, yo, I'm gonna chill with the gym. I'm gonna just start like running or doing a little something. And now he lost like 20 pounds. Now he on the bike. He like, yo, you feel like coming riding? I do like 30 miles at 4 a.m. I was like, nah, dog. I'm gonna have to catch you on the next one. Like, what? Crazy. So yeah, you okay, you was right. You was definitely taking better care of yourself. That's good stuff. That's right. Now, Nafis, when your girl called you and told you, and you said, "All right, cool, we're gonna do what we have to do." Was any part of you worried about like, okay, I'm about to have a kid, my life is gonna change? Was any part of you worried about the things that you were gonna lose in that time frame, right? Like your
Not at
life?
all.
Not at all. No freedom, nothing.
Mm-mm.
Why do you think that was? Pardon.
Because the way I looked at what a
Can you
father
move your
was.
camera down just a little for me so I can?
Yeah. Yeah, hold up.
It's cutting your face off. There you go. Much better.
So it was the way I looked at what a father was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. So is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Mm-hmm.
So for me, like a father was somebody that saw you on weekends.
Oh, okay.
That was my perspective. I look on what a father was, right? Drop the young boy off at my mom crib, or if he stay with his mom, and
Mm-hmm.
my life don't change.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
You
So
know,
you feel like that's why you kind of had that perspective, like, oh, this isn't going to be too crazy because I'm going to have the support of my family and her family, and
I
we're all
mean,
going to do this
and
at 21
the-
again.
well, the way you're putting it, I mean, that's not how I thought about it.
Oh, you didn't think? Okay. How did you
No,
think?
I just thought that a father was somebody you saw on weekends.
Mm.
Oh, okay. And did that come from your upbringing yourself?
Came from my upbringing. It came from what I seen from my friends. Right? It
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
too many of my friends who actually had fathers that's there daily.
Mm.
Okay. And so is that kind of how did things end up working out that way with your first son? Like, was it
Uh, yeah, in the
like you
beginning,
expected?
yeah, in the beginning, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to just, he stayed with his mom. I come get him, take him on my mom. What changed was, God's truth. This is a story that changed my outlook, right? Picking him up, like I was all over, right? I was throwing parties, I was
Mm-hmm.
hopping on planes, picked him up, dropped him off at my mom's house. I flew to LA. My mom called me and was like, "Yo, your son can go to the hospital." And I was like, "All right, we'll take him." She was like, "This is your responsibility. I raised mine."
Mm.
So I was probably in LA for a couple of hours. I had to get on the plane and come right back.
So you actually came right back.
So I had to come right back,
Yeah.
literally. So
Yes.
that changed. But I think that I still kind of had. I felt that it was more responsibility. Like I was like,
Mm.
damn, well, maybe this is more responsibility. But I think that women, especially moms, aunts, sisters, they still enable. For me, they enable me as a 22, 23, 24-year old father because I could just come and go as I please.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel
You
like
know,
that was better in the long run for you?
I
Or,
I,
I mean, hindsight is 2020, of course, but like,
I think it was great, right?
okay.
Because it gave me time to mature. Right?
Oh, okay.
If my mom and aunts and sisters was just like, here, do your thing. And I tell them all the time. I tell them this all the time is my kids probably would have been in poopy diapers.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But having them there to do those kind of things was just like, man, and I got to
Yeah.
mature and see. And so even though later on it added um it added them feeling like they can be in my parenting style, but that comes along with it.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
So, well,
What about you two fellas? Did you feel like you were losing any part of yourself? Were you worried about any of that?
I wasn't.
No.
No, I wasn't at all. I felt like I was gaining more of
Mm,
myself, to be honest with you.
nice.
So
And how old were
yeah,
you when you first got pregnant?
I was how old was I when she got pregnant? I was 30, 32. No, I'm sorry. I was 35. So I was older.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That changes it. That definitely
Yeah.
changes the
Yeah.
perspective.
It definitely helped. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and you were married.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely
Right.
helped.
That's a good
Yeah.
point too. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I was 33 with my first one. So definitely, that changes things in terms
Yeah.
of like being ready, mature enough.
Yeah.
I definitely was worried about losing freedom. I'll be honest with y'all. That for me, I was just like, am I not going to be able to come and go as I please? I'm not going to be able to do that no more. I mean, and that's okay because we planned it, right? So it wasn't like a shock, but I think
Yeah.
the reality still made me feel like, damn, am I still going to be able to just kind of, move around? Or is this like now the entire person of who I am? You know what I mean? And so I was definitely curious about that. And then we had the baby, and nobody cares about the husband anymore, right? Because we've had the kid.
Yeah.
You ain't had a baby. You ain't going
Hmm.
labor. You're a grown man. We
Yeah.
know you're fine. We know
Yeah.
you. Okay. How is she doing? How's his baby?
Yeah.
So, anybody else have that transition as well?
Yeah, um, yeah. For me, like I always, I always think about in Barack Obama's book, The Audacity of Hope. In like the first few pages, one of my favorite lines he says is, "Men live their lives either correcting their father's mistakes or trying to live up to their expectations."
Mm.
And I was in the position where I was trying to correct mistakes. You
Same
know,
here.
I came from a single parent household. You know, my
Same.
mom raised me,
Yep.
um, and you know, there were some in our neighborhood growing up. There were some people who had, dads were around.
Yeah.
There were also some where dads did come on the weekends, like
Yeah.
my man here said, and there were some that didn't have any, and I was the one that didn't have any. So
Mm.
I found myself, and sometimes I still struggle with this today. I find myself in a constant state of trying to overcompensate
Mm.
for the things I didn't have.
Mm.
And like you said, Matt, when nobody cares about the husband when the baby comes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just constantly found myself trying to insert and prove myself
Mm.
to prove that like, hey, I'm
Right?
here. Like, hey, I'm here. Like
Yeah.
I exist. Like
Mm.
I am here for my child. Do you
Yeah.
not see me? You know,
Yeah.
like when the nurse, like when we first had my daughter, when the nurses showing me how to tie diapers, showing me this, showing me that, and I was like in there, like everybody else move out the way. This is my responsibility. Because y'all gonna come by, stop, probably let us take a nap. Maybe you won't see the baby and leave, and I'm gonna be the one that's up all night with the kids. So
Yep.
all y'all move. I'm here. Yes, I matter. That's
Right.
how I
Yeah.
found myself in a
So,
constant state of that.
so it's funny. It's interesting you said that, right, Clarence? Because I just had this conversation the other day about my son is two. My oldest is 22, right?
Mm.
And those two things that you said, Barack Obama said, I feel as though my 22-year-old is trying to live up to my expectations,
Mm.
Mm.
right?
Break that down for me.
Mm.
And and by him trying to live up to my expectations, he's making mistakes because he don't even realize what my expectations are.
Mm.
It's his perceived expectation.
It's perceived, right?
Mm.
And by him making mistakes, by him making the mistakes that he's making, it's harder. It's actually making his life harder.
Mm.
Mm. Where do you think he came up with that from? Is it just himself, you feel like?
No, not at all. I think that when you drive as parents, we drive the things, we instill the things that we feel as though is important,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So I might have instilled education, starting your own business, I might have instilled that more, but that was only because of what I didn't do, right?
Mm.
But that
Mm.
doesn't mean that it's necessarily top of my priority. I was just making
Yeah.
sure he didn't do things I didn't do.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
in reality, that's not top of my priority list.
I see what you mean.
So, it's just like I said, just trying to live up to my expectations and not even really understand what my expectations are.
Mm.
So now you got me thinking I got to have a conversation with him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like these ain't my expectations.
Yeah.
that's good. That makes me think about conversations I need to have, actually. That's good
Yeah,
that you said that.
I tell you, as they get older, man, I tell people, I used to tell people all the time, raising them was easy, right? Because we
Hmm.
there, they make a mistake, you can say, hey, stop, don't do that.
Yeah.
But
Right.
once they become grown and they start making mistakes, it's like I can't tell them to stop.
Yeah. You have to
And
let
I
them
think we gotta
make the.
let them, and then we the ones gotta clean it up.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's real.
You know what I mean? So
That's
it gets harder. Nothing's hard. It gets challenging as they get older.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely heard that before. Keon, were you going to say something before about that?
No, I was just agreeing. I mean, I think that's deep. Do disagree in one regard, though. I think even as adults, you can still tell your children stop. Now
Mm.
they have a choice if they're going to stop. But I
Right.
think for me, it's my role to tell my kids if I see them driving towards the edge of a cliff, I tell
Mm,
my staff this all the time, adults or not, right? And most of my staff is older than me. But if I see them driving off the edge of a cliff or towards the edge of a cliff, I'm gonna
mm,
tell them to stop. Now, if they want to keep driving, that's on them, you know. And I feel the same way with my children. And and honestly, even the reverse. I want my kids to tell me to stop, if they see me going down the wrong path, because no one has a monopoly on knowledge.
sure.
You know what I mean? So
So
that's
we
just
were
kind of
so we were
my
all
take.
we were all young. We always thought we thought we was that guy. We smelled ourselves.
Yeah,
And so you're right. You can tell them to stop, right? And sometimes they're not going to listen,
yeah,
right?
Mm, of
And
course.
you have to find a way of because it's going to frustrate you,
yeah,
right? Because
Mm,
we know that we're the ones that's going to have to clean it up if you don't
yep,
stop,
yeah,
right? So
mm,
you have to look. I had to learn. I'm still learning. I had to learn that I can't get so frustrated that it drives a wedge,
hmm,
oh yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Because then my son's at a place where now there's a wedge there, and he's just like me. So he's stubborn, I'm stubborn, right? But
Mm,
because I told you to stop, I'm like, well, you gotta learn your lesson. But at the end of the day, me telling him he gotta learn his lesson, I'm letting his hand go too soon,
yeah,
mm,
right?
yeah,
So
mm.
I'm saying it's interesting, man. It's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, hearing you say that part reminds me of and I do a lot of reading, man. I'm a nerd, man. So you be in hotels a lot. I do a lot of reading. There's a book called Disciplines of a Godly Man by R. Kent Hughes,
hmm,
and he describes like raising a child is like a bar of soap.
Mm-hmm.
If you hold too tight,
It's gonna
or
slip
if you let
out.
it, or if you
Mm,
hold too loose, either way it's gonna slip away.
yeah,
So
mm.
you gotta have right. So you gotta have that delicate balance
yeah,
That's good.
um, in raising. And I'm only 6 years into fatherhood, so I'm not trying to sit up here trying to make it seem like I got all the answers.
Oh no, you good, brother. Yeah.
Because I know there's probably a plethora of things that y'all are going to teach me just in this form right now.
I think the upper hand though is you guys are married. You know what I'm saying? I think that plays it's a balance there. You
Mm.
know,
So what
whereas
was it
the
like establishing that kind of relationship? Because that's a good segue, actually. So
mm,
what was it like establishing that relationship then with your oldest son's mom, right? That co-parenting kind of
mm,
situation. And then for the married fellas, what was it like creating that dynamic in the household with your wives, right? Because I think there's several assumptions out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's one assumption that the man doesn't do anything, especially when there's a baby around, right? When I got 1 week off with my ex-wife, I got 1 week off from work because my job at the time did not see a point in me being home. So they were like, "You're not feeding the baby. You didn't
yeah,
have the baby." They said this to my face. "You're not feeding the baby. You didn't have the baby." And this is 2014. I don't see why you would need longer than a week off
yeah,
from work, and you're
yeah,
not waking up in the middle of the night. So what's going on? And so I'm just
hmm,
sitting there like, well, I can't lose this job. So I'm like, you're right. I don't need to do anything. Like, even though I'm literally doing everything, just like, I'm up, I'm in the middle of the night feeding the baby. This
yeah,
is how I've learned what cartoons were still on TV because before this, I'm not even paying attention to any of that kind of stuff. And so it was very interesting kind of figuring out what our dynamic looked like. So for you guys, like Keon, what was that like for you and your wife? Did y'all talk about it ahead of time or did y'all just kind of fall into the natural flow?
So we had an idea, as everyone does, right? You think you're gonna have this picture perfect
Shit.
kind of situation, but my son, who's the oldest, Caleb, he was born as a result of an emergency C-section,
Mm,
so with that comes other challenges, right? Because it's a major surgery, you
right.
know.
We make it seem like
And
it's very simple and there's nothing
yeah,
to it.
like it's simple, you go home after a day and you're
Okay.
good and everyone's all fine and and thank God everyone was fine, but
Hmm.
the complications associated with um having any surgery, right? Her getting up and things like that were not as what people thought,
Mm.
me not getting up at night because she had a major surgery, so she couldn't always get up. And she would, because my wife is tough. She's the strongest probably person I know in terms of mentally. She's a very strong person.
Mhm.
Um, but you know, those challenges were there. I fortunately had a different type of situation where my job wasn't like, oh, well, it's just a week kind of thing. They were like, take as much time as you need,
It's
you know.
amazing. I love
Yeah,
that.
take as much time as you need. I had a great CEO at the time. It was a woman, and
Mhm.
as a mom herself, she probably understood that, there are complications that come up. So, um, but in terms of, the next steps after my son was born, I mean, it was a lot. I was waking up just as much because I was very, very active, kind of like Clarence was when he was saying, he was trying to do all the things. Like that was
Yeah,
me
right.
too, trying to do all the things, so, but it was fun, to be honest with you. I mean, I think it was just a beautiful experience, like that I'll never forget,
Oh,
so despite the complications and the emergency C-section and all that, it was just all a blessing,
okay,
so
that's good.
yeah, I'm grateful
So you and
for
your
the
wife
experience.
had just split the responsibilities. Basically, whatever needed to get done got done, kind of thing.
Yeah, whatever needed to get done got done,
Okay,
Yeah, so
whatever
that's
that
kind of
looks
how
like.
it was. I was running around just like now. I'll say this quickly. My wife travels a lot. She's always traveled a lot. She's also always been an entrepreneur. So always busy. Right now, my wife's in Kenya, you know. So, it's always been like that. So that it's always been like we just figure it out, you know. And that's kind of what it's been. So, you know,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And how about you, Clarence? What was it? Did you and your wife talk about it ahead of time, or did you guys kind of jump in?
We talked about it a little bit,
Mhm.
especially somebody like me who was the farthest from being around babies, dealing with babies. Like I always had this thing where like I wanted to wait until the baby was at least like 6, 7 months old before I even held it. Like people
Yeah,
would have newborns and all that. I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm good, y'all.
right. I don't want to break
I'll just
it.
look from a distance.
Yeah.
All right, cool, good to go.
Yeah.
But that all of that had to change. And my experience was a lot similar to Keon's. It's funny because we actually had a scheduled C-section, so we knew it was coming.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ours was scheduled, and
Mm,
like he said, it's major surgery,
yeah.
so you already know that. Hey, like I said, I got to pick up the bulk of the. I got to, especially the initial
Hmm.
Mhm.
weeks afterwards. You as the man is going to pick up the bulk of the load, and I was prepared for that. Like I was, like I said, I'm here. Like y'all not gonna sit up here and say I'm not doing nothing, but even if you say I'm not doing nothing, I know I'm doing stuff, and my wife know I'm doing stuff. So the rest of y'all don't matter.
Right. And I think something that's always
Yeah.
interesting that I'm going to be asking every dad on that I bring on here, whether married or not. But one of the things that I typically ask most men is, did any older man have a conversation with any of y'all about what it's
Mm,
like to take care of a woman after she's had your baby?
mm,
And typically when I ask that question, most men have said no, in terms of there was never a man who sat down and said, hey, this is what to expect. You know what I mean? I know for me, it was, yeah, I was kind of shocked. I'll be honest with you, because everyone talks to you about everything up to having the baby, and then you have the baby, and then you're home, and then your wife can't walk. You know,
hmm.
I was just sitting there looking like, damn, you really can't walk. Oh, I really have to pick you
Yeah.
up and take you to use the restroom. You did
Hmm.
just have a major surgery. I guess that is true. No, you can't really eat properly. You can't really wash yourself at all. Like there's a lot that, and it was just blowing my mind. And so I'm having conversations with my friends at this time who haven't had any kids yet. I'm like, you know what it's like to take care of a woman after having a baby? And they're like, nah, what are you talking about? I was like, yo, this shit is crazy. You know what I mean? Just because it really it's just not in any of the books. It was in
Yeah.
none of the workshops I went to.
Yeah.
So I was just like, we need to be having this conversation more because there's a different level of empathy that needs to come
Yeah.
your way. And then I didn't even talk about postpartum yet. We didn't even
Mm,
get there. God forbid
hmm.
that did happen. Like, and so I know that it is, it's just such a an involved process that has
Yeah.
so many layers that I feel like as older millennial men, because we're all essentially around the same age, we're really like unpacking and peeling up off these layers as we speak.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wanted to come from these different angles as well, because I feel like there are men who are in all of our different kind of situations, right? And so like Nafis, with your child's mom, how did you guys decide like how things were going to be? Well, like, first of all, did y'all live together? Was
No,
it okay?
no. I mean, my story is gonna be totally different than
Oh yeah, no, I
you
know.
know, like it's
Yeah.
just we was coming from. Oh man, I don't know what to say. We weren't even dating. Just
Okay. Well, you're talking about the first one.
yeah,
Yeah, your first time, right?
yeah. So what was the question? I mean,
So like, okay, so that situation would have been like a little different,
right.
but like with your second son,
Mhm.
your third son, like what was that dynamic in terms of you guys figuring out how you were going to handle things with raising, you know what I'm saying, your son?
So she comes from a household of having a mother and father.
Okay.
So her outlook on how things should be done, once
Hmm.
again, was solely deep in your mind.
Right.
So we butted heads a lot on like she wanted me at doctor's appointments. I'm like, yo, dog, I'm outside. Like, I ain't gotta do
Mm.
that, you know? Um, and I was 23. So I
Hmm.
was outside. Like, why do I go to the doctor's appointment?
Right.
Um,
What about your second son?
that's what I'm talking about, my second son.
Oh, you're talking about your second son. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Because me and her were together off and on for about 7 years.
Okay.
So, like I said, she was disappointed that, she was hurt. I wasn't at doctor's appointments and stuff, but once again, that wasn't what it looked like to me, right? So, what she wanted, I wasn't feeling. So
Okay.
that caused a lot of controversy.
So when your son was with you, you took on all the responsibility of like what that looks like in terms of feeding, clothing, getting into school, all that kind of stuff, along
My
with the help
oldest,
of family.
you talking about my oldest or my middle?
Both. I actually
Well,
both.
my oldest lived with me,
Right. Okay.
so everything was on me. But my middle, was raised by both of us. And like I
Okay.
said, I more of
The
more
weekend.
of yeah. And so it was more of like it was a bad situation
Mm-hmm.
because once again, how she looked at because she came from two parents, she saw what a household was feeling like, even though we weren't a household, but in her mind, this
Mm-hmm.
is what it looks like. This is how a
Mm-hmm.
father steps up, right? But in
Okay.
my eyes, that's not how a father steps up. Why do I gotta
Okay.
go to doctor's appointments? That's not what it looked like for me, but it like that's what it looked like for her.
Okay. And was your dad like that?
I don't,
You don't know him like that. You don't know your
yeah,
dad.
no, I didn't. So my dad was a weekend dad. So I
Okay.
don't know if he went to doctor's appointments. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay. So you're
So
modeling what you knew in that respect.
exactly,
I
exactly.
feel. I feel that. My dad was outside as well. He was married to my mom, but he was outside. That's another episode, another day.
Right.
So I do understand in terms of because my dad. I remember when we were having a conversation, even when I was younger. He was just my family's Jamaican, and so he was just like, men don't do these things,
Mm.
like the stuff that we're even talking about at this
Yeah.
level. He was more so like, I'm gonna holler at you when you're like 13, 14, when you're older.
We
That's
need
when
me.
I come into play,
Right.
and that's when my involvement kind of really steps in.
Mm.
And I thought that was an interesting perspective. As a kid, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was trash. I thought it was garbage. But I understand it better now. I still think it's wrong. Like in terms of like I don't think it's the best way, but I also understand now where that comes from him because of how my grandfather was. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And old school Jamaican in the country, like
Yeah.
there's no I'm gonna teach you how to do like none of that. That doesn't exist back then, especially. So I definitely understand, and that's why I felt like even when I was dealing with a newborn who wouldn't stop screaming, and now ex-wife who was going through her own battles with after having a child and trying to figure out how to maintain a job that's like,
Mm.
why are you so tired every day? And I'm trying to call older men, and they're like, older men in my family, and they're like, so you're staying up late with the baby? And I'm like, okay, this is pointless. After like the third one of those, I was like,
Yeah,
you know what? I'm gonna just rock out. I'm gonna just make this happen. And I'm gonna just because it just felt like, and I'm sure that there are older men who are very involved. They're just not in. They weren't in my circle at the time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Mm,
so and that's why I feel like it's so interesting but good for us to be able to kind of have this conversation, right? Because what ended up happening after that then became my only identity was being a dad or a father in
mm,
some way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like what I said before. When you're married, you have the kid. Everybody just wants to know how the baby's doing and
yeah.
how life is doing, especially like within the first year. If I'm being honest, you know what I'm saying?
So,
It's good.
I want to. The question was, did you guys did you guys have someone tell you or teach you, hey, this is what fatherhood looks like, or this is what
No,
being a husband looks like? So we're
no.
basically we're all
I personally,
we're all
I did.
experimenting.
It
So
was
learning on the
absolutely an
job.
experiment for me, but I'll let them share
Go
their.
ahead, Clarence.
Well, well, I can say I was fortunate enough to have examples of what I thought was a good model of fatherhood.
Hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
especially with the community I was in. Like my dad wasn't around, but there were several male figures who stepped in and were like big brother figures, some father figures to me, between uncles and my church community growing up down in Georgia. There were a lot of people who stepped in, and I did have a lot of examples of uh, of people to look up to.
That's
So
good.
I just saw what I thought, and I kind of winged it, and then I said, "Hey, at the end of the day, I'm going to have to define what my role as a father is and what fatherhood is to me to my kids."
Mhm.
You know, like my wife tells people all the time, like Clarence does way more than any dad I know of growing up.
That's great that she recognizes that. I love that for you.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I do.
yeah, and, I appreciate that. And again, I think it just goes back to me and that overextending. Like, look, they people already think dads don't do X, Y, Z. So you know what? I'm gonna go out there and prove them wrong. Guess what? I'm gonna do
Black
X.
dads.
I don't even
Yeah,
know if it's
black
just
dads.
black
Yeah,
dads, honestly, but especially
yeah,
dads. Yeah, I can definitely say it, especially
yeah,
dads. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I definitely wanted to prove myself too. So I'll be honest. I definitely wanted to kind of usher in a new era of like being involved. So I was at like all the pre classes, and then when we're talking to like daycares or teachers, I'm like, here's my information. Please feel free to call me
yep,
because I too am a responsible parent.
yep.
Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Trying to like fight for that respect because for real, like you go even going to the doctor's appointments or whatever. God forbid, the mom is there. It's almost like nobody's talking to you at first.
Yeah,
Like that's how I'd
yeah.
be. I would be like, just so we're clear, everybody, everyone here is under my health insurance. I just want us to understand. I'm paying for everything going on up in here. So y'all gonna give me my respect. And so, and so that's real though. Like I love how you said though that you defined it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Keon, that kind of feels like how you were saying earlier because you were talking about one being 35, right? So clearly putting
Yeah,
yourself in a different headspace. And then
yeah,
two, also kind of saying like, you were ready for it. You were excited. It was fun. So to me, that means like, and then you said as soon as you found out, you were like, okay, we're planning for my grandkids now. So clearly,
yeah,
for you, it was like that same kind
yeah,
of similar thought process.
yeah. I had a little different, to answer Nafis's question. I had a little different of an experience. Although I similarly had single mom kind of experience, I spent a tremendous amount of time with my grandfather, her dad, every day. I was with
Mm.
this man, and at the
Mm.
time he was retired when I was growing up, probably retired when I was maybe in, I don't know, kindergarten or something. So I was young,
Wow.
maybe even
Man.
before then, actually. So he took me to school, he picked me up from school. I would sit on the bench with this man for hours, pretty much every day, just talking, you know. which was a tremendous, now as an adult and a dad, was a tremendous experience. And
I can
I
only
don't
imagine.
I don't know if he intentionally let me just talk or he just did it because he was kind of a quiet, humble guy. But in either case, I now am very intentional about talking to my children. So if I'm doing something, I mean, if I'm like really, really tied up, then I'll say, give me a minute.
Mhm.
But most of the time, I will put work or whatever down to talk to them because I remember, the time that he gave me on that bench, every day pretty much. And his two brothers who were twins, um, they poured into me tremendously. So my uncles, my grandfather, were like beyond father figures. I can't even really describe
Mm.
the role that they played because it was beyond a father. It was just like different. And also, I guess differently, I mean, my grandfather, he was the one that was cooking breakfast and all the things. So I just had a different glimpse in terms of what a dad looked like, you know.
So
Although,
you had an old school OG
yeah,
dad,
yeah,
really. Okay.
You got old
OG,
soul. You got old
Yeah.
soul.
You
yeah,
do. That
yeah, yeah,
explains a lot with you. You saying that
yeah,
explains so much, believe it or not, because it comes
yeah,
off in your temperament and your body.
yeah, yeah, very
That's
similar
why
to
when
how
I
they
met you
were.
before, I thought you were older. When we first met like 7 years ago, I thought you were older then because your
Yeah,
energy, girl, you know what I mean?
yeah, that's
Mature.
where it comes from.
I
Yeah.
see that.
So,
That's dope. I
yeah.
actually love that. I ain't gonna lie.
So
Yeah.
you got to see what it not only just a father, but what a man looks like looks different, you know?
Yeah, because what I tell people all the time, I mean, and you hit on a tremendous point there. I mean, these were like blue collar, hard working men, you
Right.
know, but the way they cared for their families was just tremendous. Like I said, my grandfather was on cooking breakfast and things like that at the house. He would cook dinner too. I mean, mostly my grandmother, but it was probably a trade-off, Thanksgiving, he was doing the greens and all the things, so
Mm.
that's kind of how I'm in the mix,
Oh,
you
okay.
know. But yeah, even now, today, I took my kids to a property that I own, right, that I bought for my kids, and I took them to a meeting with a contractor because I wanted them to hear the conversation and I was explaining to them what we're doing to this building to change it
Mhm.
and this and that. And that's what my grandfather did for me. He's my entrance into real estate, as a
Mhm.
probably 5-year-old, you
Wow.
Oh,
know.
okay.
So he would take me around and, when he was fixing stuff, and I'm kind of the same way. So it's kind of interesting how it's like a full circle
Hmm.
thing,
You don't even realize it until
Yeah,
you
you don't
now,
even
right?
realize
Until
it.
now, you're like,
Yeah.
oh damn, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. And
yep,
that's dope. It gives some more of that perspective too.
yeah,
Because even from what you were talking about before, Nafis, in terms of seeing like the effects of what the fatherhood has kind of the results, some of those results that you're seeing from the lessons that you try to instill.
hmm.
Do you guys have anything that you had to unlearn becoming fathers? As anything so far? Go ahead, Clarence. Oh, it says reconnecting. Okay, Clarence will probably jump back in. But either one of you, did either one of you guys have anything you had to unlearn?
Oh yeah, everything.
Everything.
Everything. Like I said, I came from
Hmm.
the whole process of I see you on the weekend, homie.
Hmm. So, what was that unlearning process then like, and
Mm,
what did it turn into? Like how you show up today as a father.
I mean, I understand that. So I had to when I matured, right? Because this came
Mm-hmm.
with maturity, right? As I matured, it was what did I miss? And what did I miss from my father that I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when I thought about that was number one was time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
how can I give my kids time if I'm only there on the weekends,
mm,
right? So I actually fought for my oldest son, for custody for my oldest son, because I said I didn't want my kid to grow up like me saying I want time.
Okay.
So that's what made me fight for custody for my oldest son, as
mm,
well as I wanted him to be
Oh.
involved in activities that I wasn't allowed to be involved in because who was going to take me? Who was going to pick me up? you know. So
Okay.
yeah, so I had to learn all that.
At what age do you feel like that kind of happened where you were like, I need to start moving a little differently?
He was 8, so I was 30.
Okay. Okay. And this is before you had your third son,
Yes,
right? Because your
yes.
third son, you had like 32?
No, no, this is I must have just had him. I think I had my
Oh,
third
okay.
son 29. So yeah,
Oh, okay. Right. Because he's 14?
13.
14? 13. Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
20, 30. Maybe I'm 40. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was 30. Yeah,
Okay. Right. Okay. So around 30 is when you kind of hit that place where you're like, all right, I'm gonna have to start moving a little differently.
yeah,
And you started to provide in another way as a dad, outside of just kind of like the tangible things, but also in like that emotional way, like you were saying, like spending that time together because you recognize the importance of what time can really do. And how
really do.
yeah. No, that's real. Clarence, I see we got you back. Oh, my bad. My bad,
No,
Nafis.
go ahead, go ahead.
Clarence, yeah, I see what you got you back. Go ahead,
Yeah,
man.
sorry about that, guys.
No, it's fine.
Um, I would say the biggest thing that I had to unlearn was the fact that a woman doesn't have to do it all, or a woman can't do it all. Like, I grew up in a single parent household. My mom did everything.
Yeah,
Everything.
So I grew up thinking that my wife, after 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 the initial couple months after she recovered, that she could do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that, like, that's not fair, Clarence. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Like, you're a whole able-bodied person here,
Mm-hmm.
and just because of what you saw, and because of um, how older men that you've encountered, your grandparents, your grandfather, your
Mm-hmm.
uncles, how they dealt with their households,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't have to apply to you. Or, it's a new age. Things
Mm-hmm.
aren't what they used to be. So that went back to me actually, like I said before, redefining or defining for myself what fatherhood
Yeah,
is going to be.
that's real.
how old were your parents when you? Not how old you were. I'm sorry. How old was your youngest child when you realized that? I'm saying
Youngest
home
child,
doing
well, my kids are still pretty young, 6 and 3.
other.
I would say I realized that when my 6-year-old, when she was, I'll say within the first, I say by the time she hit 2, when she was the first 2 years, I really realized that.
Uh,
Um, you know,
That's good that you got it in 2 years.
yeah, yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
I'm serious, bro, because and that's a conversation that I've had to really be honest with myself about because I'll keep it a buck in full transparency mode. I remember when my ex-wife would say things feeling like she was by herself, and I would be like, I'm literally here every day doing like all these things, right? But inherently, I didn't realize I did see my mom do everything.
yeah,
I seen her do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so without even like purposefully, or consciously doing it, there were definitely times where I was just kind of like, now I'm sitting back because subconsciously, I'm like, you got this part. Like you got
Mm-hmm.
this. You know what I'm saying? Your mom, you got it. I promise. And I'm here. And in my mind, I'm like, what? I'm here every day. First of all, I come home every day. I'm not used to have like my dad did not come home every day. It's just to be very clear. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm already thinking like I'm killing this dad shit. First of all, but I am killing it. I'm coming home every day. I'm helping feed
Mhm.
babies. I'm changing diapers. You can't tell me
Yeah,
nothing.
right.
Yeah.
You know. But there are still like other pieces to the puzzle that I didn't even realize I just kind of like didn't even pick up. You know what I'm saying? And I think that there is like a level of consciousness that as men we do need to be able to have, especially understanding what the examples that we did see. And so because a lot of us were used to seeing it. Now, Keon, I know thankfully you had like some other examples in the household, right? So that did kind of like set the table for something different. And
Yeah.
a lot of the folks in my family are married also. But I guess the influence just wasn't as strong, and I still saw the women doing most of the things. You know what I'm saying? And so, how do y'all feel like that has changed over the years now, right? Because now they say men are more involved now than ever. They say men have basically split down the middle the responsibilities of the households these days, where it's not just a woman coming home figuring out who's going to cook dinner and all that stuff. It's a man and woman doing that. Men and women are helping with homework. Men and women are helping. I know Nafis, I know you're hearing me say, I know, and y'all are hearing Nafis's theory how this stuff goes very shortly. But so it's men and women really kind of like splitting things down the middle. And within the last 10 years, as the older millennials have kind of come into play and young Gen Xers, when it comes to like the different generations, they're saying we kind of redefined what fatherhood looks like today. That's why there's so many like dad groups who have come together now and have meetups. They had one in DC this past weekend with another dad group that did like a clothing drive or whatever, but just really having men bring their kids out from all the ages. You see videos of men online doing their daughter's hair. That's
Hmm.
I had to climb that mountain too. I got two daughters. I had to climb that mountain because I never planned on doing nobody hair. I'm like,
Huh.
this is what y'all are here for. It's the ladies or whatever. But then mom's not always available. The
Hmm.
kid's hair still got to get done. Y'all ever seen Poetic Justice? There's a scene where Tupac bring his daughter to Janet Jackson hair
Yeah.
salon at the end, and he like, her hair looks fine. And
Yeah.
Janet's like, it looks crazy. That
Yeah.
was me a couple times. Okay. And the ladies at the daycare would be like, Daddy, you did her hair today? I'd be like, yeah. And I had to, I started being like, wait a minute, they're not saying that because the hairstyle is fly. No. They're saying this because she looks like she ain't got no mom. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna have to, you know what I mean? So do y'all feel like things have changed? Do you feel like we've kind of like turned a corner onto a new era of fatherhood?
I definitely do, for
You think so?
sure. I mean, everything you just said is I agree with. But I think a lot of that is also because, roles have shifted so much, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, my wife wouldn't have been the norm when we were growing up,
Yeah.
traveling internationally, running her own business, making more than the great majority of men in America, all the things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
she's a boss woman, and by default of that, I had to take on certain roles when she's traveling. Right now
Right.
I'm lucky my mother and my mother-in-law are here because I'm going to Kenya to meet with my wife tomorrow. But,
There it goes. That's a
that
village right there.
that's not always the case, right? So
Right.
back in the day, she would never say, "Oh, I'm going to Kenya for work." I just didn't, well, at least I didn't see that growing up, you
Mm.
know.
Right.
So I think we have been forced almost essentially in a good way too, because now men are able to bond with their children differently, you
Yeah.
know. Because you get that solo time,
Yeah.
that I appreciate when my wife's not around. So it's not like you can't go run to mommy. It's just me here, you know.
Hmm.
So
Do you feel like her culture, half Nigerian, right?
yeah, half Nigerian, half British.
Half
Hmm.
British. Do you feel
Yeah,
like that has played any role in how you guys have attacked this parenting thing also?
I think so. I think so. Although I will say, my wife's not the typical woman of doesn't matter what the
It doesn't
culture
matter.
is. So she's just totally
Okay.
different, but she had there are significant nuances because she was born and raised in Nigeria, you know, and she has a British dad, so that was an interesting culture
Right.
too, right? She's also mixed, right? So her dad is
Right.
a white man that was living and still lives in Nigeria,
Hmm.
so that too is it's an interesting um dynamic. And she went to American schools in Nigeria. So
Oh.
it's
Oh,
it's
okay. I didn't know that part.
yeah, it's an interesting mix, so but I definitely think there are nuances in terms of the work ethic and things like that that have
Hmm.
translated into how she is as a wife and a mother and a businesswoman and all the things, that have certainly passed on to my children and even me, you know,
Hmm.
like things that she values because of her culture that I don't
Hmm.
really see here as much.
Oh, okay. In terms of like family values kind of thing,
Family values,
traditions,
the importance of traveling, even
experiences.
religion, like things are just heightened. I feel the
Gotcha.
culture is very rich, in various parts of Africa that I've been to. So,
Nice.
specifically Nigeria. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I remember you were talking about that before, just in our different conversations
yeah,
about meeting her father, about where he
yeah,
lives, and like how you had
yeah,
to show up in all of that and what that kind of looks
yeah,
like too.
yeah,
Because all of
yeah.
those things do make a difference. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
no, it all makes a difference. She grew up, she had a privileged background, but very humble. And
Yeah.
I think also
Super.
growing up in that type of environment gives you a different type of humility because it's so impoverished
Hmm.
around you. But you are not
Right.
growing up like that. So you can take it one of two ways.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thankfully, she definitely has taken it like you were saying, the humble way for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely for sure. Yeah.
And so, Nafis, for you, the same question in terms of how things have kind of shifted for us as men, right? Because 20 years ago, you're labeled baby daddy, right?
Mm,
2025, the conversation is first, you are a father of three sons, right? You are your mother, you have your mother's children. You're not saying like baby mama. Like, there have been so many different shifts in the culture where it's like in the past, back in our day coming up in the 80s and the 90s, you hear that kind of terminology, baby mama, baby daddy. Nobody's taking care of any responsibilities. The kids are running down the street, no clothes, diaper half off, kind of very stereotypical piece. Whereas now, and just from knowing you and hearing your story over the years and how you show up for your sons, and Keon is interesting because Nafis is outside of you and the conversation that I remember, you're probably the first person, Keon, who had a conversation with me about setting your kids up from the standpoint of the property piece.
yeah.
And that was like from when we first met years
Yeah.
ago. We were
Yeah.
talking
I
about having the
remember.
properties in
Yeah.
their names and so on and so forth. And
Hmm.
when I met Nafis a few years back, one of the first conversations we had was him talking about, first of all, the properties that he owns, but then setting his sons up for the future. And he has a will. He has they have different rules and things that they have to meet in order to
Hmm.
get the inheritances.
Hmm.
And he's got things like they are set thanks
Hmm.
to what he has put together for them already. And their oldest is only 22. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And so clearly, Nafis, there's a difference in how things have shifted over the years, right? And so you're not the typical father of three sons who has, different moms and whatnot. How do you feel like things have like transformed, and what made you say like I'm literally gonna turn this whole thing upside down?
Um, think that being around decent people, decent fathers, right? Um,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think your circle definitely helps grow, right?
Like your peers. You
Prepares.
mean? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm around like I'm probably the only entrepreneur out of all my friends,
Mm.
Okay.
right? So when I hear guys talking about job bonuses, and, you
Not too
know,
much on me. Hmm.
insurance and things like that, I mean, you don't want to be the one who's sitting back and like, no, I don't have none of that, right? When everybody else is talking about the yacht,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And they're actually educating you while they're talking, and they don't even
Mhm.
know they're educating.
Oh, okay.
So I think for me, that's what changed a lot for me was, oh, all right, y'all doing that? Okay, let me write that down.
Hmm.
And not only that, so I used to cut on the University of Pennsylvania in Drexel.
Hmm.
So a lot of things that I hear the kids come to the barbershop with an American Express card. Wait, how? Right?
Mm.
How you get that? Oh, I'm on my mom's or on my dad's. Oh, okay.
Mm.
Let me write that down.
Hmm.
Right?
Oh.
So, and it's just
Okay.
like it's just things that I know that I never wanted my kid for me. I was excluded from different conversations because one, I didn't go to college, and
Hmm.
two, I wasn't educated on these type of things. So I said for my kids, my kids are never going to be excluded from any conversation. From traveling the world to finances to business to college, they
Right.
got all that. They got all the boxes checked. So that was my thing. I know how I was hurt from it, and I said
Hmm.
they're not going to be hurt that way. So
That's amazing for you to be able to, because, and I forgot to mention, Nafis being from Philly. So he's working, cutting hair, Drexel, UPenn, that used to be my stomping grounds back in the day. And so that's super dope though, listening to you're having these conversations with clients and customers and picking up game along with the circle of men that you're now surrounding yourself with, and you picking up game from them to help you set your kids up. Do you guys think that that's something that's newer too, in terms of men being willing to sometimes ask those questions on how to do better or whatever? Or do you think that that's kind of like always been around and maybe we just didn't see it? Because I feel like communication amongst men has been kind of tricky, at least in my lifetime. Nowadays it seems a lot more open, but growing up wasn't really like open book. Everybody wasn't an open book at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clarence, it's going in and out a little bit.
Oh, I'm here. I'm just
Okay,
being.
there you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, what did you want to say to that piece?
Yeah, I think it's you know, this is like real elementary, but when, the whole when you know better, you do better type thing.
Yeah.
And I think like as we progress and evolve in, medicine, technology, the family dynamics, things are changing. And I think our generation is doing a good job of taking those changes from what things used to be and how we're redefining it, we're remolding it, and to make it forward for to make it better forward for our offspring and posterity.
Yeah.
Like I personally think that the millennials are the new greatest generation. I
That's a
personally
fact.
think
I
because if you
agree.
think about just in a 40, 45, just in a 40, 45-year time span, all the things that we've endured, growing up, and all the things that we've managed to fix and, repair and make a new meaning and definition of and move forward. I just think that's good. Like, especially in our community, us being black men, we've recognized and understood that those before us, there were things they didn't know, things they didn't have access to. A lot of the things that they endured and passed to us weren't really their fault because of the generation before them, what they had access to. We understand that. We understand that. We've forgiven them, and we said, "Hey, we're going to make sure that our children don't have to deal with those things. They'll have their set of challenges,
Right.
but we can make sure that we equip them with those tools and that knowledge that we didn't have or that we had to discover. Like I say, we teach them early what we learn late.
Right. Right. I agree. In terms of our generation, like I've always told people, millennials to me are, because I feel like we're teaching our children and teaching our parents. So I feel like we're going in both directions.
Yeah.
I'm giving my parents grace for the mistakes that they may have made, right? Because now as a grown man, I understand there's no way I could have any of these expectations for you to have been anything more than what you were. You know what I'm saying? And now being a father, I really understand what it's like. And then in the same breath, we're trying to teach our kids or make sure that if we have taught them some things, we're trying to unteach those and, just really give them the best opportunities. And I think that we're doing, a great job at it. Even like Nafis I was talking about before, he was telling us his story, right? He just had his son graduate from one of the best HBCUs, graduate early. I ain't gonna tell all your business, whatever. I'm just saying, like,
no, that's
that's
all
just
good.
that's just one son. That's just one who graduated from, I'll let you say the school and all that. And so it's just like for him not going to college, he's already made sure that one son has graduated with honors from one of the best HBCUs and is going on to, again, I ain't trying to tell all your business, but he's going on to many things is the point. You know what I'm saying? And so even with me, like being emotionally, for me, the biggest thing was like making sure I was emotionally available for my kids so that you can just come and talk to me and we're actually like in tune and we have like a genuine relationship where, you can just, come and talk to pops. And so I do feel like our generation is big on that. How have you guys managed to, like, how do you keep your hobbies up? How do you keep your identity outside of fatherhood? Because I would say like some of it fuses together, right? Part of your identity changes when you become a dad. And so you can never like obviously get rid of it, but how do you keep like your mental health, your mind state strong in being a dad? Do y'all take personal time out? Clarence, do you still be flying all over the place by, this brother, this is one of the few dudes I'd be like, yo, what you doing? They're like, no, I'm in the air. He just taking out one of the small planes, just, getting some air, just chilling up here. So I don't know. How do all of y'all, and Nafis is no better. I'll talk to him. He's like, yeah, I'm in Miami. I wanted some authentic cuisine. And so I got on the plane this morning. I'm here for lunch and I'll be back tonight. So brothers, how do you guys keep yourselves together?
I would say in
Well,
terms of maintaining my, I'm sorry, go ahead, Clarence.
No, go ahead, Kia.
I
Clarence,
was
just
I,
jump
was-
back in.
I was gonna say, in terms of maintaining my hobbies, I mean, I invite my family into a lot of my hobbies. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, one of my biggest hobbies is traveling, so
Okay.
I take my kids all over the world, it's real important to me. And in terms of taking time out, I mean, yeah, I still try to get out there sometimes. Sometimes for me, just taking time out might be just going into the yard. I
Mm.
get joy out of simple things, which kind of is funny because those are the things like if y'all remember, I said I would sit on that bench with my grandfather. I mean, a lot of times we were just
Mm-hmm.
tinkering with things in the yard, so it's another full circle thing, right? Just messing around with gardening or whatever in the yard. But really, traveling's been a big thing, and I'm really inviting my kids. My wife's into the real estate, but my
Yeah.
children, are starting to get excited about it too. Like today, I said, "Hey, let's go to Baltimore. Let's go check out one of your properties." "Oh, okay, so
I
so
So
I like that,
love
So, but
that.
those are the things that bring me joy. So yeah,
Yeah, I like that. Being able to just go in the yard and have that alone time.
yeah, just a
So it
long
doesn't always
time.
have to be like a huge to do.
It doesn't. Also, having conversations like this, I think are good.
Mm.
Like when we would go out to brunch and stuff like that, man. I mean, those are releases for me too, just to
Mm.
to talk to some other guys that are going through some of the same things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I think that's always helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. Nafis, what about you?
no, Clarence, you go.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Clarence.
okay. Yeah, for me, I would say a big part is just making sure my health and fitness is up. I know we talked about that earlier. Like in the morning, I spend the first couple hours a day in the gym. Like I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning, and I get a workout in, and that's pretty much my me time. Listen to spiritual motivational music, um,
Mm.
and I'm killing a couple of birds with that stone when I do that. I'm making sure my health game is up.
Yeah.
I'm giving that a long time when it's just me doing my thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to leave the rest. Like I like to take care of me first because I figured if I can't take care of me and make sure I'm 100%, I can't be of service or give the maximum effort to everybody else that needs me.
Hmm.
My wife and my kids. So I make sure I take care of myself first, physically and mentally, early in the morning before everybody else wakes up. Because when everybody else wakes up, my life is no longer mine.
That's a fact.
That's how I see it. My life is no longer mine. So I take care of myself before everybody gets up because I know when everybody gets up, I want to make sure that I'm there to give 100%. Especially on the times when I am in town when I'm not traveling. Um,
Mm.
I can say I am blessed to be in a position where my job is my hobby. I love my work.
Right.
I don't time.
Right. Right.
So I will say that plays a big part of it. My work is meaningful. It's impactful. It's something that I love. So that takes a lot of, I guess you could say, life's pressures and
Mm.
stresses off of me. Um, that plays a big part. And also, and like Keon said, conversations like this, like there's a men's group I'm a part of at my church where we spend 2 hours a day. I'm sorry, 2 hours once a week on Mondays Just talking about things, that other men go through, like-minded men, just to stay spiritually grounded, things like that.
Mm, I love that. Staying spiritually grounded. That's a huge piece. Go ahead, Nafis. What about you?
I think that's key. That's key one right there. Spiritually grounded.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
For me, it was when I had my sons. It was when I had to be hands on every day. It
Mm.
was I had to. I was a basketball player, so but once I stopped, once my body, my knees wouldn't let me play anymore, I had to find something that was active. So like bowling was my thing. I picked up bowling. So
Mm.
at least 2 nights a week, I was out bowling.
Okay.
Just with the fellas, which allowed me to laugh, joke, talk about the kids,
Mm.
just bowl.
Hmm.
And besides that, I mean, traveling, traveling to cut hair, like different NBA players, that was always dope for me to,
Hmm.
go to a game, just sit back and be in my environment. Because
Mm.
like sports is my environment. So as long as I'm in
Yeah.
sports, I'm relaxed, I'm released. So yeah, that's how I made sure I found a client that was playing somewhere else besides where my kids was at.
That's a smart way to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you like built it in, just like actually
Yep.
all three of you actually kind of talked about that. So you essentially that's actually super dope. So the three of you built in that time for yourselves. You integrated it into your regular lives. So it really doesn't even take away from what you're doing.
Right.
Because Nafis, you would have been working regardless, cutting somebody's hair. So
Yep.
now I'm gonna cut somebody's hair in the city that I feel like being in, so I can go to a game or whatever,
Correct.
and have that time away, right? When you're available. Clarence, you're flying. You love flying, so you're doing that and making money doing that. Keon, you bringing the kids with you to the properties and whatnot, showing them the ropes because they love it now. You love it already. That's a very smart way to do things, fellas. I think that's going to be a key takeaway, at least for me, because one of the big conversations. So I asked folks different questions before this meeting just to see like what questions people would have for you all. And one of those was trying to figure out what is a way for a man to maintain some sense of self identity while having children and becoming a father. Because a lot of them have felt lost and have felt like they disappeared, right? Because men have typically been talked about in a way that's very insignificant or in a way where it's like you just kind of produce, right? So you go out, you work, you bring home the bacon, you move out the way. And so now this is, I think, a really good and healthy way to show like you can still have your fun, you can still show up as a father, you can still do all of these things and still be a great man at the same time. And just understanding that the lessons are going to keep coming as they go, right? So one of my last questions for y'all, if your younger self could pull up on you today,
Ooh.
if your younger self, let's say 10-year-old you, could pull up on you today, what do you think would surprise them the most of the father that you have become today? What do you think would surprise your younger self the most? I'll go first. I think my younger self would be happily surprised that I'm not as much of a tyrant as I kind of grew up in, because I grew up in a household that was very old school Jamaican, strict,
Mm.
like boom, 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 and I think my younger self would be happy to see like there's structure without it being like, y'all know what I'm saying. And I think having that balance, and then I think my younger self would be surprised but happy to see me literally coming home every day and being with the kids.
Mhm.
That's like a huge thing. What about you guys? What do you think?
Well, I say for me, it would be that I'm actually even a father.
Mm, okay.
Yeah. That I'm actually the father, and that I'm a uh involved father.
Mm.
So
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. That's dope. Okay. What about you guys?
I would say 10-year-old me, 10-year-old Clarence would be very surprised and shocked that Clarence actually did it. Clarence, like my only thing, the only thing I've ever wanted to be was an airline pilot.
Oh,
Mm.
And
really?
yeah, and growing up in my environment, um, you didn't. That wasn't something that you were told you could be. It was, hey,
Mhm.
black people don't fly planes. What you mean? Huh? You're
Yeah.
not smart enough.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, 10-year-old Clarence will be, and the fact that 10-year-old Clarence, 10-year-old Clarence sees that adult Clarence is a father. That like similar to what V said. Comes home. Oh, I'm sorry that you said, Matt. Comes home every day. Comes home every day. Loves on his kids. Is like a very involved parent. Something that he never saw every day on a day-to-day basis. And his Clarence's wife isn't doing everything because Clarence
Mm.
is also present. He'll be
Mm-hmm.
surprised at all of that. Like it's just just thinking about it. Just
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You
just
realizing how far you've actually come.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You do, and it
Mm-hmm.
almost brings a tear. It almost brings a tear to my eye. Thinking about it. Growing up on the south side of Atlanta, man, seeing the planes fly out. Hey, and I swear
Yeah.
to God, like every time I land in Atlanta, like I almost cry because it's like, wow, that was me
Wow.
standing literally right there. I see the old neighborhood I grew up in as a flyover, and it's crazy, man.
Wow.
You just get choked up thinking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
That's a hell of a full
yeah,
circle moment right
it
there.
is, man. It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Kenyon?
Something similar to what Clarence and Afis both just said, but I think my 10-year-old version of myself would also be surprised that I've been able to accomplish some of the things that I've been able to do and also some of the platforms that I've been on. I'm typically pretty reserved, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
quiet guy and now through different facets of life, I mean, I'm speaking in front of hundreds of people sometimes and things that I didn't even see for myself, but some of the men that raised me would say, particularly my Uncle Ronald would always say, like, you're gonna be a motivator or something one day, and now I see myself in those roles. Even with the real estate and things, I used to draw buildings, and my mom
Mm-hmm.
still has some of those sketch pads of apartment buildings and things that I've now, started to buy. And, it's just kind of crazy to see. It's
That's
not even
no.
crazy. I think God's been good. It's been such a massive blessing, you
Yeah.
know, um, and just kind of full circle of when I look back on what people would say about me, like this kid's gonna be something. Like he's gonna do some
Mm-hmm.
great things,
Mm-hmm.
and then you don't realize when you're young the blessing you have, like I said, with the men around me and stuff, because that was my reality, right? So I didn't see any different. I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't see any different, right? So when they would
Right.
pour into me with certain things, I would say, whatever. But a lot of these things are happening. The traveling, I've been to almost 40 countries, never
Mm-hmm.
saw that. I didn't grow up around people doing these kind of things. You know what I mean? Taking my kids all around the world, like all the things I used to, I talk to my mom about this sometimes. I used to sit on my bed dreaming about this stuff, like Clarence was saying. The traveling, the house I live in now, the all these different things that I've been blessed with over the years have started to kind of into place over the years, and honestly, sometimes I know I worked hard, but a lot of it just kind of, I'm not going to say fell into my lap, but I followed what I thought my calling was in certain areas, and things have
Mm-hmm.
kind of fell into place, without me having to struggle in a lot of ways. There was struggle getting to certain points, but once I was at that point, it was like, you know, well, you're trying to figure out how to get this type of real estate. Someone comes into my life, or a call or text will come, and I think my 10-year-old version of myself would be like, man, I have to believe in myself, you know. That would kind of be the message, believe in yourself, believe in your purpose, God's going to direct your path.
Mm.
You gotta follow it though, and things will fall into place. I'm
Heavy on
living
you gotta
proof.
follow.
Yeah, you gotta follow it. I tell my kids all the time, you think you have, and you said your 10-year-old version. My son is like a little mini me,
Mm.
and he's 8, about to be 9, but I tell him all the time, you may think that you want to be a professional soccer player. That's your life. That's your thought, but you may
Right.
have another plan for your life, and that's what you need to follow. You need to
Hmm.
follow what God's put in your heart to follow, and things will fall into place, you know, from my perspective. So
Which I think is a great and healthy perspective
yeah,
to have, especially to be teaching the kids, right? And
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it's an amazing space to be in for us to be able to teach our kids
Hmm.
that you can follow your dreams like that
Yeah,
and not kind of be, because I feel like for a lot of us growing up, it was about survival.
yeah,
And what you're talking about is abundance,
yeah,
choice,
yeah,
free will. And
yeah,
I think that's a huge thing to really be able to provide for your family,
yeah,
in another way. And I think it's dope because I think all three of you have been able to do that in your own and unique ways.
yeah,
And that's all done in one generation. That's
yeah.
not an easy, that's not an easy feat to accomplish.
That's a massive point you make there, Matt. Because something I talk to my mom about sometimes is like our generation is really the first generation outside of civil rights, if you think about it, right?
Hmm.
So my mom was born in the 50s. My parents were born in the 50s, right? Late 50s,
Right.
almost 60. But, you know, we're the first of it. So, going back to what you were saying earlier about the millennials, I mean, it's just amazing to see, like you just said, one generation, the
Hmm.
impact and the abundance, not from a monetary perspective. Because one thing I want to say this, one thing I tell my kids all the time, impact over profit, right?
Hmm.
Mommy and daddy have been financially blessed, but like what we are able to do, with what we have been blessed with, has been much bigger than any monetary thing, you know,
For sure.
and the most important thing.
Which is, yeah, and that's dope. I think that's also part of what we're teaching, whereas we're very community oriented in that way
Yeah.
and selfless in that way too. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because coming up, a lot of our parents as millennials, and this would kind of be like my closing, but like we came up in the era where a lot of our parents work for those companies. You stay there for 40 years,
Yeah.
you retire, you get the watch, that whole
Yeah.
thing, right? And then for a lot of us, we came up around when the parents were getting fired from the
Yeah.
jobs that they had been at for those 30 and 40 years.
Yeah.
And so we learned it in real time that it's like, oh, I really have to like figure this out. This isn't something where I just stay in this one place.
Yeah.
I got to be able to keep, and really teaching the family like it's deeper than just having the job and the check and going home, because that can be taken away from you at any point if you don't have your own. So
Hmm.
really doing your best to help others. And so they also say millennials are the most philanthropic generation thus far,
Hmm.
because a lot of the things that we've even invented and created, even on shows like Shark Tank, they just talk about like how everything is, you buy this and one pair will go to this family that's in need and stuff like that. Like we're
Yeah.
real heavy on that
Yeah.
kind of. So I definitely feel you. I agree with you there. Did any of y'all have any closing thoughts, anything you wanted to share? I appreciate y'all coming on today, man, and really giving like breath the full breath of what it is like being a dad and how things have changed over the years. But is there anything else you wanted to share?
Nafish,
I'm
you got anything?
no, I'm good, man. I think
Yeah.
it's great, 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 great podcast, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah. I just want to, congratulate you on the first episode. This is really
Thank you.
dope. And keep doing what you're doing, man. You've always been a good, solid brother. So, I
Thank you,
appreciate
brother.
you. Appreciate the conversation. And hope to continue to connect with y'all in different endeavors. And I guess I'll leave with impact over profit, like I said earlier. You know,
I like it.
for anyone listening, particularly the dads, teach these next generations, what greatness looks like by the impact that they can make on the world. I'll say this very last thing. The property I took my kids to today is a building that I bought that we're converting into housing for unhoused veterans. And, you know, it doesn't have to be something like that, but I can't remember which one of y'all said it earlier, like teaching your kids philanthropy and teaching them,
Mm-hmm.
impact and doing good in the world is going to make this thing just so much better. We live in a crazy time right now. So I think continuing these types of conversations and exposing our children to these types of conversations is going to make a huge difference for generations to come.
Absolutely. I definitely got to talk to you about that because I was just talking to a friend of mine today who's owns a property in Alabama. It's like 6 or 8 unit that she's
Hmm.
actually trying to convert to veteran housing. That's hilarious that you just said that.
I have yes. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we definitely talk about that.
Yep.
Clarence, did you have any final words? Anything you wanted to share?
Just
Or any final thoughts?
yeah, it's great to see conversations like this, especially in this space, and just thinking
Mm-hmm.
about how the social media algorithms are dominated by all men. All men are trash. All women are ungrateful and are trash. And it's like, no, it's not, guys. Like, it's not. Like, there are
Mm-hmm.
several fathers out here who are
Yeah.
involved. There are several women out here who uplift their husbands, uplift their significant others. Like, it's just
Amen.
you just get tired of seeing the whole red pill thing, and we just need to kill it, like with conversations like
Mm-hmm.
because it's not anybody any good. All it's doing
No,
is
I get that.
adding another layer of division to an already divided on world. Like we probably like people can't even agree on what day of the week it is anymore. So it's just great to
Yeah,
see things in a
it's.
space like this and just seeing brothers out here trying to change the narrative and speak positive.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I agree. And I appreciate that, man. And yeah, that's really, the main goal of this is to expand the conversations. Um, so this is my first episode. Again, fellas, I appreciate y'all for coming and joining. I am going to be doing some follow-up stuff, so I will be asking y'all to absolutely come back with throughout the season if you're available to come and share more expertise. And for everybody else that is listening and watching, hold on real quick. And for everybody else that's watching, more episodes on the way. My next episode, episode 2, I'm going to be speaking to some husbands who are going to have real conversations about being a husband. And they're going to talk about the everyday life of it. And it's not going to be everything is happy and butterflies and smiles. And it's not going to be happy wife, happy life. So we're going to get down to it. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a good one. And then the one after that is going to be life after the vows, divorce, co-parenting, dating, healing. What are we doing? What are we talking about? And thankfully, I sent out this message to a lot of guys, a lot of men, and I got 30 responses.
Mm.
So I got 30 men who were willing to participate in this. And at first it was slow, but then after a while it started to pick up. And that's when I knew, and most of the men are married. And that's when I knew that we really needed to have this conversation or these conversations because initially a lot of men were not sure.
Mm.
They weren't sure if they wanted to deal with the ramifications of keeping it a buck regarding what they may say because who knows how their wives may react. I'm going to just be honest. They weren't sure what the response would be, but they're still doing it. And this is what we need, man. Let's have the real conversation. It doesn't have to be disrespectful or anything like that. We can be honest, we can be real. And so I thank y'all for coming on today. I appreciate you sharing your perspectives, sharing your stories. I've learned more about all of y'all today. And absolutely, you know, if you do want to come back on, let me know. I'll definitely reach out to y'all. And thank y'all for giving me this hour and 40 minutes of your time tonight. And definitely get back to y'all families and have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Take
All right.
care.
All
Take
right,
care.
brothers. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. And we are done.